And at the last minute, they switched it and sent us to this country. And I was so disappointed because I thought, nothing's going to happen in Hungary. 5 months after I got there, Viktor Orbán was elected with a 2/3 supermajority.
How about that?
And I became an advocate for democracy.
Welcome back to ITHAKA, the Journey of Great Hellenes, a video podcast series powered by the Hellenic Initiative, THI. We explore the remarkable journeys, values, and defining moments of distinguished Hellenes and Philhellenes. Today's conversation features Ambassador Eleni Tsakopoulos Kounalakis, whose distinguished career spans public service, business, and international affairs. She currently serves as Lieutenant Governor of California, making history as the first woman elected to this prominent position. She previously served as U.S. Ambassador to Hungary, where she proudly represented the United States during a critical period of democratic change. She also spent 2 decades in business, building with her father one of California's most respected housing development firms, AKT Development. Please welcome Ambassador Eleni Tsakopoulos Kounalakis.
Eleni Tsakopoulos Kounalakis, my dear friend, this is such an honor and a pleasure, me interviewing you. You're this protein woman, this superwoman. Here we are in Hollywood. I'm waiting for the full feature movie.
George, you're so funny. How long have we been friends? It's like 20 years? Something.
More than that.
You were my lawyer when I went through Senate confirmation to become a United States ambassador.
I was.
Do you remember what you said to me?
Mm-hmm.
I was so nervous.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, Senate confirmation, what about if they ask me about this or that, and am I prepared? And you had to get all this clearance, and you said, you just kept saying to me, Eleni, you're a Girl Scout. You're a Girl Scout. You're going to do fine.
Well,
but it was
It reminds me when we kind of started the Hellenic Initiative, and I went to your dad and to you, wondering whether it made sense. And you used almost the same words. You didn't call me a Girl Scout, maybe a Boy Scout, but you made it very clear what you did exactly say, and your dad said on different occasions. You said, "This is super. This is super. We have to do it. George, you have to do it." And the Hellenic Initiative was born, and you've been such an integral part of it. It's so natural when you look at the rest of your career. This is a great opportunity for the Hellenic Initiative. This is our ITHAKA series. Yeah. It is Journeys of the Greatest Hellenes and Philhellenes. And it just warms me so much to do this. And so we're sitting in a cafeteria together. It's important for certainly our youth and the Philhellenes around the world to get to know you even better, even though you're in the news every day, even though you've done all these amazing things. I'd really like to explore family and roots and what makes Eleni run. So let's just start at the beginning. I mean, just talk about, your youth and your upbringing and all of that and what it maybe meant to you.
Wow. Well, I grew up in Sacramento. My father's story is so well documented, so well known, really iconic in Sacramento and really everywhere. He came to the United States alone, 14 years old when he left home, 15 by the time he got to the fields of California. He lived with a bachelor uncle in a garage. He worked as a farm worker. Was encouraged by a local family to go to college after high school. He moved up to Sacramento and worked his way through Sacramento State University as a waiter in the governor's mansion, And then all these years later,
full circle.
All these years later, it's the daughter of of that waiter who became the first woman lieutenant governor of California. So it's a very California American dream story. But you're right. Within that is years and years of struggle and of hard work and of family and of this marvelous, marvelous Greek American community that I grew up in. So in Sacramento, of course, the center of it was our church. I grew up, we were three girls and one boy, and then later my little sisters came along, but a big family. And for girls, in really a relatively provincial town, in a very immigrant, conservative type value families, it wasn't really presented to me in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s even, that I should be looking at a big career of any kind. In fact, really the only kind of pathway other than housewife was maybe being a teacher. That was kind of what I was thinking, and that seemed exciting to me. I mean, I looked around and saw sort of this bigger world around, and I knew that I wanted to have something more. And it wasn't that I didn't want to have a family and kids. I'm the happiest wife and mother, very, very lucky in that regard. But I also had this sort of drive inside that I wanted to do something bigger in this great, big, extraordinary world. Again, Sacramento was very young city back then in terms of, of course, the center of the gold rush and all that, but really everywhere around you just saw this new world being built around you. And I remember sitting in my church and looking up, and there was a very beautiful Pantocrator, the Christ icon, which is in every Orthodox church. If you look up in the dome or right on top of the center in front of the
Epitaph.
And it was this beautiful Byzantine image that was completely out of place in that, California new kind of society. And it triggered in me this idea that there was not just a bigger world out there, but that there was a whole past, a history of how we got there, a continuum. And that because I was in this church and this image belonged to us, it was a signal. And I think that if you grew up on the East Coast, if you grew up in Greece where so much around you is old, it's very different. That's nothing new. But from where I was from, it was really very much a trigger. And so from a young age, I had this, wanderlust, this curiosity. And even though I never really thought that it meant that I was ambitious or that I had any particular goals, it just always created this kind of fire, this drive, and this curiosity in me. So really, that's where it started.
I have to tell you, share this with many other great Philhellenes and Hellenes who we've interviewed. I mean, your curiosity and your drive, it seems to be in our DNA. Think about aspects or episodes early on that sort of took you further and further. How would you describe that chronology, that path? Because, again, everyone listening into this is inspired by what you've done. Okay. And they're also wondering, what is it? How did you make your breaks? How did you get breaks? What drove you toward this level of excellence, and I'll say sense of responsibility to Greek society, Greek American societies? What were some of the, can you think of?
Of course. I mean, really, my father has been this towering figure in my life. And I think that
for many of us.
I think, and Nancy Pelosi is coming to the THI dinner here in Los Angeles tonight to honor him as you are honoring him with this Lifetime Achievement Award. My father got to know Nancy and Paul very early in her career when she was the chair of the California Democratic Party. And he looked at her and saw a beautiful, kind of, again, traditional values, wife,
For sure.
mother with 5 children.
Good Baltimore woman like my roots.
Right? But a powerhouse.
Oh, yeah.
And I think something clicked in him. He had 5 daughters and 1 son. And I think he realized that if he wanted to have ambitions for his own children to carry on his traditions, he couldn't my brother Kyriako, of course, is very capable. But if he opened up his thinking a little bit, that his daughters could be like Nancy Pelosi, it clicked in his head. It triggered something. Wow. And I distinctly remember him looking at me and talking to me and encouraging me.
At what age?
Differently. This was when I was in college. Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I was in college. Well, no, maybe even before then. Probably, I guess it was when I was in high school. Yeah, it had to have been because 1984 was when she was chair of the party, and I graduated high school in 85. And so he encouraged me and helped me get an internship in the state capitol. I then went on to be an intern at the U.S. Capitol for our congressman, who was a friend of his. But he really encouraged me in politics, and I think there's no question that you can draw the line of his inspiration in getting to know Nancy in the early 80s and suddenly seeing his daughters in a very different light and giving us opportunity and encouragement to look at political engagement.
And anyone who knows you knows that you have this extraordinary work-life balance, that family's number one, clearly came from Angelo. At the same time, it's almost you've used that family love and family values and you projected it into your career. Oh. It's amazing, really. So how
nice.
Tell us about the work-life balance.
That's a really nice thing of you to say, George. Thank you. I want to. You wanted to go deep, so let me start by saying that when I was growing up,
everyone out there, we're going deep.
When I was growing up, I was the worst babysitter in the world. I had no interest in that. In fact, I think that really my maternal instincts were not particularly strong, and I wasn't driven to get married just so that I could have a family. And a lot of my friends really were, and I didn't have that. And I also had all these opportunities that my father gave me in my career, so I didn't feel like I was missing anything. And then I met Marcos, and we got married 2 months after we met in City Hall.
My goodness.
And a month after that in the Patriarchate in Istanbul, Constantinople. That was 26 years ago.
How'd you meet?
Oh, gosh. We met when Stavros Lambrinidis, who,
Lambrinidis, the lawyer.
A great diplomat from Greece.
Sure, an ex-colleague of mine.
That's right. That's right. He, at the time, was serving as the ambassador at large for the diaspora, for the Hellenic diaspora. He came to San Francisco. I was asked by Greg Magnatis, who was the founder of Odyssey Magazine, to host a dinner.
Our mutual great friend.
Greg also knew Marcos and invited Marcos.
Oh, my goodness.
We met at this dinner. It was December 10th of 1999. It was the millennium with Marcos renamed the Elenium. Right? And
the Elenium.
And he used to joke that in the Cretan tradition, they would kidnap their brides. And so waiting 2 months to get married for him was actually showing a great deal of restraint. But of course, my father, our family, knowing and having such love and admiration for the patriarch, I had spoken with the patriarch years before. My father said, "Tell my daughter Eleni she should go get married. She's 30 years old. She's not married." And he looked at me with love in his eyes and his heart, and he said, "My dear, when you are ready, come to Constantinople, and we will have a beautiful wedding for you."
Oh, my goodness.
And then years later, I met Marcos, and I remembered that I had been... the patriarch had given me this invitation. So we basically rallied our friends and family over just a couple of weeks. We barely knew each other, but we knew everything we needed to know. Wow. And we were married in Istanbul.
So you're this loving couple, children that I want to get to those.
Oh,
the kids.
and I was going to say that because I do think this is really important, that even though I wasn't programmed, I don't think, in this real kind of maternal drive when I was young. The moment that I had a child, it changed my life. My heart exploded. I couldn't wait to have another one. We had our second son 13 months later, and it's truly been the greatest joy of my life. But
Tell us about the boys.
well, they're 23 and 24. They're the loves of our lives. They're both actually Greek citizens. Marcos and his father, so we continued that tradition. They're just wonderful young men going and finding their own way in their own careers in this, really complicated world.
So I'm curious about this. So you clearly have had a dedication to Greek ideals, our shared DNA, which has produced so much, and almost a sense of responsibility of carrying it forward. As your father's given it to all of us, and you have it, and we all, I like to think I have some of it. What does it mean for the next generation, particularly American-born? Can we instill in them the values? And first of all, do you think it's important to do so? That's a loaded question because it's a lot of what the Hellenic Initiative is about. But quite seriously, with organized religion challenged, with America first, I'm an American first. What does it mean to be Greek American, and what can they carry on their tradition, sort of carrying forward the Judeo-Christian traditions and the ancient Greek traditions? What do you think about that?
Well, I think a lot about it.
Yeah, I do too.
And I think that it's interesting. The Hellenic Initiative, your impulse to do something was really in the context of the terrible potential for Brexit, the financial crisis in Greece, and no one was running to the aid of Greece, shockingly. And you and Andrew and President
Many
Clinton
of us, you,
and
all
others,
of us, all of us.
but you drove it. And what I think has really evolved, though, is you look at Greece today. Tourism is off the charts. I think every one of us in the Greek American community see all around us this explosion of interest in Greece.
I'm trying to get reservations right now.
Right? But to go there, to touch this ancient land, yes, it is the food. Yes, it is the water. Yes, it is this warm, wonderful, incredible place. But there is something going on. And I believe that we are having a new renaissance of interest in Greek thought and philosophy that is derived from the culture, and the culture that we do as Greek Americans and as Greeks and Greeks of the diaspora, we do carry it forward, whether
And many Philhellenes, I might say.
many Philhellenes. Well, look, I mean,
More and more.
one of the great things that our church did was become very, very open
Yeah.
to intermarriage.
Very much ecumenical.
Oh, and welcoming in
Right.
people who are not ethnically Greek into the Orthodox tradition.
Right.
Our churches are thriving. And we know from Lord Byron, from the history, that Hellenism is a philosophy. It happens
way of
to
life.
be our ethnic heritage as well. And I think that's important. But it's even bigger than that.
Oh, my
And
goodness.
we are sitting here in Los Angeles. California is indisputably the center of innovation, technology, and now we are on the cusp of artificial intelligence changing everything. And what is being challenged is this question, whether you're Greek or from any culture, this question of what it means to be a human being. And as you said, the challenges of organized religion in the context of the technology revolution, feeling like that's some old kinds of ways of people answering those questions. How do you answer it today? So I encourage everyone to check out a friend of mine. His name is Ryan Holiday. Ryan is from here in California. He went to college down in Southern California, and about halfway through, he discovered Marcus Aurelius and meditations.
Nothing like it.
And he discovered Stoicism. And he was consumed by what he was learning as a young man looking for answers. What does it mean to be a human being? What does it mean to be a good human being, to have a good life, a fulfilling life? Meditations. He has now turned this into a major operation. He goes by the handle of the Daily Stoic. He has millions of followers and participants in this. He and I are quite friendly.
Wow.
And he is bringing to the world what we as Greeks have been raised with.
And so in many ways, it's the spreading of the Greek ideals.
It is absolutely happening. I mean, I think you saw it in literature with these children's books, that Percy Jackson books, if you have heard of those.
Of course.
Lit up a whole generation of young people around Greek mythology, the fallibility of the gods, the gods as being similar to humans.
Well,
right?
We were the civilization that made gods in their own image.
Exactly. We were also
Which
the
changed
civilization that asked asked and answered outside of the context of or religion itself. Ancient Athens fostered generations, but in particular in the Golden Age, Aristotle and Plato and the philosophies and Stoicism and these philosophies that asked and answered these questions 2,500 years ago. For people who are looking for answers, there is nothing more tantalizing than understanding the way that human beings looked at these questions millennia ago, and then being able to see that through the prism of all of this time in the way that human beings have evolved. It is a very powerful thing. I think it is happening in Western civilization around the world. I think in Asia as well. You see this renewal of interest, this explosion of interest in Greece and Greek philosophy. And I think we're really just at the beginning of it. And I hope that members of our community own it. However much you know of your Greek history, that you do understand that we have a right, we have a birthright to these things. And
We are culture carriers.
yes.
We're culture carriers. So how does that intersect with government, politics, that other world of yours? That is a world of compromise, sometimes organized confusion, trying to steer policy, and just the angst of it, the difficulty of it. I mean,
Sure.
you keep at it. You're now lieutenant governor. You're running for treasurer. We all see these amazing things. You were the first Greek American to serve a woman to be an ambassador. Let's start with that. Tell us about that experience, because you wrote a book about it.
But I do want to get back
We will.
to this other thing, because I have a story there too. But, so very involved in our community in Sacramento. People know what kind of bundling is nowadays. We didn't call it that. We just called it being involved in our community and help electing really good people and inspiring and arm twisting others to help elect good people. And we did that for a long time. Thousands of political candidates would come through. And if we thought these are good, ethical people who are going to use their talents and their power in public office to really deliver for people and provide good governance and democratic principles and ethical principles, we want to help them get elected. That was it. For my father, who grew up in a village where the women didn't, including my grandmother, never went to school, couldn't read or write. They had no political power. And he understood from the lessons of the farm worker movement and then working as a waiter in the governor's mansion, he saw the way it works in this country. And so for him, the privilege of being involved in your own governance, this was a thrilling prospect.
And does harken back to the ancient Greeks.
Without question. So we just did that, not because we expected anything out of it. There was a piece of it, of course, wanting to also elect people who believed in the importance of the transatlantic relationship and the relationship between the United States and Greece and stability and security in the Eastern Mediterranean. If we wanted anything out of the people who we helped, it was an understanding of the importance of stability and security in the Eastern Med. But generally, it was our civic participation, which was just incredibly fulfilling. But I was a businesswoman. I built housing developments. I never thought I would. I first loved the fact that I had the opportunity to do that. I was president of our family business. People would say, you should run someday.
You were like a citizen statesman. You were. You were.
Well,
indeed. And so you had that balance. You had
my
that
father
experience in
certainly
business.
was. In those years, I was his right hand.
Right.
And I loved it. And I loved it. But he would put me up on the podium to do the introductions of Dianne Feinstein and Barbara Boxer and Nancy and Bill Clinton several times, and Hillary, of course, our dear friend. So so it was when Marcos and I got married, and people said, well, I told him, well, people think I should run for office. I just don't know about that. I'm a housing developer. People don't particularly look fondly back then on housing developers. Now, of course, it's quite different. And he said, Marcos said to me, well, you don't have to run for office if you want to be in service. You can take an appointment in an administration. And it never occurred to me before. And so it was really his idea. And that was how it came about. Hillary Clinton and Nancy Pelosi were my two biggest champions. You helped me get through Senate confirmation. Ended up in Hungary.
You didn't need my help.
Believe it or not, we were supposed to go to Singapore. Our boys were in Chinese school at the time.
I remember.
And at the last minute, they switched it and sent us to this country. And I was so disappointed because I thought, nothing's going to happen in Hungary.
But then you're in Eastern Europe. You're right in the center of things. You're an eyewitness to Greece and its involvement there and the Eastern Bloc, and wow.
And 5 months after I got there, Viktor Orbán was elected with a 2/3 supermajority.
How about that?
And I became an advocate for democracy. There's this really weird through line, my father's experience, and then being Greek American, establishing our university chairs in Athenian democracy, then going to a country that was an established, literally mission accomplished democracy that gets this wave of populism with Viktor Orbán coming into office. And suddenly, here I am talking about democratic principles and going to Afghanistan and talking about democratic principles of all things, and then coming back. So
you came back. So you finished this great stint. You wrote this wonderful book, which I recommend to every new leader, as we call them in this world. Everyone should read that book. So you come back, and you got that fire in your belly still.
Yeah, so I was working for the State Department. I was a non-resident fellow at the State Department in the Bureau of Intelligence and Research, and I was basically just getting ready for Hillary Clinton to be the next president, and then I was planning on going and working for her, probably in Washington, supporting her, and had some different thoughts of what I thought I could contribute. And then, of course, I was living in this kind of personal, pardon me, George, nightmare of watching what happened in Hungary with a charismatic leader blowing past democratic principles.
Although another populist just took over, so. Right, I mean, so he got his.
Watching, no question about it, I mean, we can unpack that too, but watching it happen here and watching Hillary lose. And right after, I didn't know what to do with myself, and it didn't take long before I decided to run for lieutenant governor of California. And I don't know, George, I look back and I don't know why in the world I would throw myself into a race for statewide office, never having run for office before. But it was, I think more than anything, it was just an instinct and a desire to be in the arena fighting for the things that I believed in.
And you have a champion partner. I mean, you're almost, I dare say, the power couple of California.
great.
Marcus is an extraordinary fellow.
He's also a great content creator, by the way. If anyone is watching his stuff, he's doing this
indeed.
Superpower California
Right.
and is
Hoover Institution,
yeah.
all that. I mean, just amazing individual who have high regard for.
well, and his father fought in the underground resistance on the island of Crete.
Sure.
His parents came here. Again, 3 out of 4 of our parents were refugees to the United States. 3 out of 4 of our grandmothers never learned to read or write.
The American Dream. This weekend is the Milken Conference, and Mike has created in Washington the Center for the American Dream. And it frankly is so Greek. Then again, as the poet Shelley said, we're all Greek. What's your final message for the new leaders around the world?
I want to go back to this question that you asked about what it's like to be a politician in the world today.
Yeah.
Because I gave a graduation speech at the Colegio in Athens, the
Yes,
Athens
you did.
College, the incredible high school based on, founded by Americans in
Where
Athens.
my father went.
Did he really?
In the 30s,
Oh,
my
wow.
grandmother sent her 3 sons back from
Wow.
Baltimore to Athens to go to Athens College.
Wow.
And they went to Athens College. They boarded there in the summers. They would be in the Colegio and Sparti.
Wow.
Yeah, and then the war was about to break out. The 3 of them came back. They all enlisted in the American Army, all shot at, all survived.
Wow.
Athens College.
Wow. I did not know that. That's all right. So this amazing school.
Yep.
And my remarks were fine. But the speech that I wish that I had given was given by one of the valedictorians. It was so brilliant. It was back to this theme of technology, artificial intelligence, and what it means to be a human being. What do you hold on to of value? And he talked about something I think is so powerful. He talked about this world that we're living in where everything moves so quickly that what is lost is nuance. Nuance. That in politics today, in order to break through, everything is black and white, everything is extreme, everything is
Internet blasted.
right? And so as a politician, you have to build your support base, but you can only build your support base with people who agree with you 100% of the time. And the ability to build in and lead with nuance along the way is extremely difficult. And it both worries me about the world of politics today, but I am also very confident that it is something we'll be able to get back. And so as an elected official, this is something I think about, and it is also something that I think is inherent in our culture. And part of the reason, and by the way, it's not just our Hellenic culture. I also think that it's integrated within the Orthodox faith. This value that only, if I may paraphrase our clergy, that only God judges. Think about that. And that we are raised from the youngest of ages that it is a sin to judge one another, that only God should judge. That opens the door for so much understanding, so much cooperation, so much working together with respect for one another to solve the problems and meet the challenges ahead of us. And I draw on both my Hellenic and Orthodox faith, and that in many ways is very much at the crux of it.
Eleni, as well as I know you and as much as we all admire you, the poet Cavafy wrote in Ithaca this incredible poem. But he made it a point to say, don't hurry up. It's a long journey. There's miles to go before we sleep, to paraphrase another great poet. You're still on that journey, and you can still contribute so much.
Yeah.
And for that, all of us, you have our abiding respect and love. And the message to everyone out there, every one of our Philhellenes and Hellenes and the youth, I think what you're hearing is, in this crazy world we're all trying to figure out, is a profound optimism that you project. And I know it's in the faces of your 2 boys. I know you get it from Marcus. And God bless you. Keep it up for us. It's really, really central to what we are. Thank you, Eleni.
Thank you, George.